Welcome to part 2 of our Link G4x mini training series here. We're going to be taking a look in this tutorial at working with our page layouts. Now our page layouts allow us to open up our calibration file in our software and have everything organized in very specific tabs found within the software. Now we definitely want to have a proper page layout to be able to navigate our calibration file or the software very efficiently. We will take a look at working with a supplied link layout here in this tutorial, as well as how to create custom layouts on your own. Without further wait, let's jump in so we can check this out.
Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at the basics of our page layouts found within our PC Link software for use with our Link G4x systems. Now our page layouts will be essentially a make or break of how well you can integrate and tune with your Link G4x system. We have proper layouts, we can get to our information, get to our tables very effectively, very quickly, and we're able to edit them and being able to then see the data as a result of editing the tables. So we want to have structured page layouts that make sense. We can work with some defined page layouts from Link that they're providing, or we can create our own custom page layouts to suit what we want to see and what we want to work with in the software. Let's take a look at opening up a calibration file and then opening up a page layout so we can see what this looks like and the idea of what a page layout represents. We're going to first go up here to File and to Open, and this allows us to open up a file within the PC Link software. This is our base map directory, so to speak, of all the base files that we have available from Link. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose any file. It really does not matter at this point what we open up. I'll go up here to the Atom1UZ sample file, the very first one, and allow that to open. Now what you'll find is that we have this page 1 that's open here. What we'll find is the software is going to open up the last layout that you had loaded prior to closing the software. So I actually went to layout and I went to new layout, allowing me to go in here and have a custom layout that can start from scratch. This essentially is starting all the way over again with creating your different page layouts. So this would be our page 1. We can create multiple pages here at the top. Let's load a predefined layout from Link so we can see what this looks like. So we go here to layout and we go to load layout. We can go here to this first option, 1920 by 1080. Now you'll notice that there are a couple other options in my folder here, and then I have down below a whole bunch more options. These options down here are layouts that I provide with Evans Performance Academy Link G4x training course. So those aren't going to be available or likely not to be in your folder, especially downloading the software from Link. These are not included from Link. We'll take a look at my master layout here a little bit later in the tutorial, just so you can see what you can accomplish with creating a layout. Let's go up here to our 1920 by 1080 option. Notice that that is the screen resolution, so there is a smaller resolution option to choose as well, but I'm going to choose this option right here. And when I choose this, we have these tabs pop up here at the top. These are different pages. This is a page layout. We can see this structures things in a logical format or order within our screen. So we can see here, we can access some basic information with our fuel tuning. We can access a fuel table, a three-dimensional view of our fuel table. We can access live data or runtime values. These are values that we can see as the engine is running. This would be known as live data. We can see that we have gauge displays displaying channels. We can see there's a lambda average and an MGP, or manifold gauge pressure. These will move when we're live with the G4x. So we can see that in a gauge format, or we can see it in this numerical format here in our larger windows, or in a runtime list as we're finding right here. We also have here a live time plot. This allows you to take a look at the live information. We also can take a look at a time plot that's related to playing back a data log, so we can see what the graphical plotting of our information is going to be. So we combine a lot of things here within the screen. This may not be the most effective way of plotting everything on the screen. Again, we can do things more custom if we choose to do so, but we see this is at least a good starting point right from Link, and we can tweak and adjust this if we'd like. Let's jump in here to take a look at something like boost. And here we find things relevant for boost control. So boost setup, PID setup, the base wastegate duty cycle, boost target, all of our compensations are found here. And then we have our time plot that we can plot our information here in a graphical format. Also taking a look at some live data here that we can stream and are just simple numeric gauges that we can display here on our screen. So we see that we have this structuring of certain things within our calibration file paired with live data or plotted data that we can play back and see what's going on during our engine's operation. So the better we structure these page layouts, the more organized we'll be, the better we can go through data analysis in our data logging here And then also we can see what's going on in this live format. So we want to make sure we're combining things in a logical way so that if we're doing a task such as boost tuning, fuel tuning, spark tuning, we can access that in these specific pages here and being able to see what's going on. Now, if you don't want to use one of the provided layouts here from Link, we can create our own. Let's just look at understanding what goes into creating a page layout. Now, this is just tipping the iceberg of what you can do with the page layouts. This is not going to be covering every single option, just more of the major things to build out a page here that you can work with that might be suitable for what you want to see. What I'll do here, we'll use this existing layout from Link and we'll add to it. If we right click up here at the top in the black section right here, we can go in and select our new page option. This allows me to have a page name that I'm going to call my new page that we'll create. I'm just going to call this general tuning. So I might call this general tuning. Again, you can label it whatever you like. And then we can find that's going to be appearing up here at the top. Now what we can do here is we can right click and we can go to new view and we can select any of our options here. Now before we do that, I want to go in and add some tables to this window. I want to add my fuel table and my spark timing table at the very least if it's general tuning. Even though we have these tabs here, I'm just going to kind of recreate and build out my own page just the way I want to see things. So we'll go here to ECU settings and we can go through our navigation drop down on our left side here. Let's go to fuel tuning and we can see here we can select our fuel tuning table 1. This is our main fuel table. Double click and now we can find that this table appears on our screen. We have this little cursor that appears with our arrows that can move either direction that allows us to select and grab the table and we can move it up into place wherever we'd like. Let's go ahead and just bring this up into place here. Now what you'll notice is that this particular window doesn't fit the full table value. We can use our option here with our mouse and navigate here and open up the screen so we can drag and drop down, drag and drop over, and we can see that we've opened up the table so it fits within the window here. Now once we're happy with where the table is going to be on the screen, we can lock it into place up here, and then we can also lock it so that nothing else can be brought into the same window. Just so we can see, for an example, if I go here and I select a different table, let's say my target lambda table, that brings that table into the window here. I can flip back and forth between those two, but I want to have one table open at a time within one window. So we'll lock this. So now if I go back in here and I select my lambda table, it'll open that up in a separate window. That is, in my opinion, the best option here. So we'll go ahead and we'll open this up. So we'll drag this into place where we'd like. We'll open this up here, and then we can lock it in place and lock it so nothing else goes in place here. Now, in addition, let's go in here and just pop into our ignition table. And we can bring up our ignition table 1. This is going to be our spark timing table. This would be general tuning. We can see a lot of information in here. So it's going to bring this over here, and then let's open this up and drag it down here so we have that full window open here in our main window. Let's lock it in both places, and now we have our table set up here. Now if you want to add some color to the table, you can click H. This adds some color here, a little bit easier to look at than rather having those black and white values in the cells. So now we can see things a little bit better in our page layout. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is add some other information. Let's actually go in here. I'm going to squeeze this over here a little bit to make some room. Lock it again. In the middle here, we can add runtime values. Let's go ahead and right click. Let's go to new view, and we'll go to runtime values list. Runtime values allow you to group together a whole bunch of information that you can plot in a list format. So when you're live with the link, it'll display a lot of channels in a smaller window or smaller area here. So if I go into fuel, I can select any of these channels. These are logging channels or live value channels that we can see as the engine is running with the link as we're connected. So I can go in here and literally select anything I'd like. I can go and just grab some information here. Fuel table 1 status, and in no particular order. I'm not saying you have to choose any of these options. I'm just choosing some things. So injector duty cycle. Let's grab our mass airflow. Let's grab ethanol percent. Let's grab our charge temperature. So putting together a list here. So we can see this list is going to be formed, and we can slide that into place and we can lock it. We can make this list as long as we'd like, but I just added a few channels in here. Now the next thing we can do here, if we right click, go to new view, we can go to digital gauge. Digital gauge allows us to have a little bit different view instead of this runtimes list. We can have either a singular value or a list of values they're going to be displayed bigger on our screen in this box here. So just let me give you an example here. RPM, we'll type that in here. That's going to be engine speed. Grab engine speed here, click OK. So I can have this just singular value placed in this digital gauge display. And if we resize this, it'll display things differently based on how I'm sliding this around. This would be a single parameter. We could have multiple parameters in a list. So if we go back in here to field tune, we can see that right here, an example of that, or example right here. Let's jump back into general tuning. So if we right click, go back in here, we can add a dial gauge, a bar gauge, curve gauge, or target gauge. These are the different displays that we have. If we go back in here to field tune, for example, this would be a sweep style gauge, and it would be the option, just go back in here so we're very clear, this would be a dial gauge. So we can choose these different options. I usually don't work with one of these sweep style options right here, so curve, bar, dial, or target gauge, really personal preference. There is a time plot, and the time plot is useful. That's what we can find right here. We might want to add that. That allows us to either view live data in a graphical format, or if we're playing back a data log to see what's going on. So in the time plot here, we can add a group and parameters. Now a group is going to add a lane of data in the time plot. We can have multiple lanes of data. I recommend to add a group and add a single parameter for each group. I think it plots a little bit nicer. If I type in RPM here, that's going to be engine speed. We can see that's added to the group. We'll do a second group. We'll go add parameter, and we can type in here, let's type in map, manifold air pressure. And let's do another one. Let's add group, add parameter, and let's type in something like TP, and we're looking for throttle position, which will be labeled and known as TP main here, which is going to be our throttle position main sensor, and click OK. And we can see that's going to create a time plot. Now, we can't see or look at this until we're actually live with the ECU and it's plotting the data, but we can plot things graphically here, and we can size this however we like. We can drag and drop and lock that in place. The last thing I like to work with here in the software that I find is very useful is going to be a parameters list. Now, the parameters list will allow us to display data that is going to be really only referencing what's inside the time plot if we're playing back a data log. Very useful information here. So it allows us to plot a couple channels here for graphical purposes, but then have other channels that we want to follow along with. When we move our cursor through the time plot, that will plot all the other channels or tie together the channels in that timing sequence within the data log. So it allows you to tag that along. Let's go here to add parameter, and we have to select all the parameters one at a time here, so it can be a little bit time consuming. But if I type in RPM here, we can select engine speed. We can see it's going to appear, and then we can go in here to add parameter. We can keep adding some things. If we type map, for example, we can add that in here, so that's our manifold pressure, and we can kind of see what that looks like. So if I click OK, notice here that nothing will display. Where we find the runtime values here look like they're ready to go right out of the box. That's not going to be the case here with a parameters list, because it will be tied to the time plot when we're reviewing our data log. So that's just going to be some of the more useful things that we can work with within the page layouts and how we would go and structure this. Now, if you've created either just a single page or multiple pages and you want to save this, you're going to go up here to layout and you're going to go to save layout. That will save your work that you've done here in your window. They have added the auto save option. If you forget to save it, it will save it as a generic file. If we go here to load layout, for example, unnamed layout, that's something I was working with previously. It just names that so you don't lose the work if you're trying to go in and set up a layout. One last thing I want to show you what you can accomplish with layouts here. So this is our G4x master layout. This is provided in our Link G4x training course to subscribers or course purchasers. If we click on this, we can see what it's capable of working with here and plotting. So under basics page, a lot of information in here, but this is everything kind of in one location to access. Instead of going into our sidebar here and trying to hunt and peck through this and create your pages, everything is labeled here and set up for you. Fuel, for example, we have everything related to fuel we want to see. So we have our runtime values, we have our parameters list, we have our time plot, we have our main fuel table, we have our air fuel table or injection timing. Again, everything is laid out here in a very specific manner, and there are a lot of tables that we can access and work with here. We can see all the tables here as we go across. We can access the same tables going into layout. In our drop down, we can just click on these same tables instead of scrolling through here and being able to click on the table. You can do it in your drop down and access a little bit differently, but you can see that everything here is laid out in a very specific manner for a very specific purpose. So this layout took me a long time to build, a few days of going through and working with the software to get something that I was happy with, that I was able to navigate with and use for the training courses as well as for tuning as a professional tuner. So expect to put some time into this if you're going in and creating your custom pages. But you can see what you're capable of, and the software is very flexible, and you can do anything you like. The possibilities are really endless. It's just going to be pretty much a matter of what you can imagine and being able to set up to your liking in the software. So it's going to wrap it up, taking a look at working with our page layouts. You can see the importance of them and being able to create just some layouts on your own and get started within your Link software.